Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. In today's episode, I'm talking to Jennifer Dawn. Jennifer is a coach, a speaker, and an author. She is the owner of Jennifer Dawn Coaching and the Best Planner Ever. She began her entrepreneurial career selling apples off her grandfather's tree because a lemonade stand was so yesterday. And then at 23, she founded a software company and she grew it from nothing to seven figures and then went on to become a software division president for a $54 million manufacturing firm. She then was asked to lead and mentor a national network of women entrepreneurs where she discovered her love for coaching. Jennifer is a Profit First certified coach and a Preventice Growth Academy coach. She's built two multi-million-dollar business and is a published author and accomplished speaker. She is so fun to talk to. She always makes me laugh. Jennifer is full of great wisdom and advice. And on our call today, we're going to be talking about fear. We're going to be talking about creating a mindset that allows us to be profitable. And we're also going to talk about how planning is involved in that journey. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope there is great information for you to take away. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us today on Profit is a Choice. Glad to have you here.
You're welcome, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here. It's really an honor.
Great, thanks. So we just heard a little bit about your bio in the introduction to the podcast. And what I'd like to do is have you tell us all kind of about your business right now. If you want to hit any highlights, you can. But I'd also love to just hear a little bit about what your business looks like today, because I'm sure it's changed from the 8-year-old selling apples, right?
It has, because I got to tell you, as an 8-year-old selling apples, that was probably the best business I ever had because my inventory was free. I had a steady stream of clients that I didn't have to market to. I never had to advertise to get. They just walked in, and then you've got the cute kid thing going on. So sales was a breeze. All I had to do was stand there, and people were like throwing money at me and taking my free inventory. So it was, looking back now, I'm like, gee, I would love to have another business like that. It was perfect.
I love how you said, because the lemonade stand was so yesterday. That cracks me up because it's about really using the resources in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I even look back and I crack myself up because I'm just like, what a little punk. But you know what? It was just how I felt. It was just like, I can't do what all these other kids are doing. I have to go out there and look at all these apples that are just falling off the tree. Right? There's more than we could ever possibly use for ourselves. So it was kind of that perfect, I had an apple stand, no lemonade stand.
That's right. Well, you know what? That just really gives point to low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. That is the ultimate
falling fruit.
Yes.
So tell us where you are today.
Yeah. So I have to say, I love where I am today. And it doesn't mean, when I say that, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect, because nothing ever is. But it just means that I love where both of my businesses are at today. I have the coaching practice through Jennifer Dawn Coaching, and then I have my planner business, which is the Best Planner Ever. And I have to say that, both have, of course, had their ups and downs. But right now where I'm at is it's such a good place. It feels really good. Both businesses are growing. Yes, I'm busy. Yes, I have challenges. No, nothing is perfect, but it's really just a good place to be, because I feel like after all these years in business, I'm in a good place. And I think that really makes, the big difference. It reflects in the business. Your business is a reflection of you and where you're at. The things that are going on in the business, I think, are a reflection of that. And so I'm just at a really, really good place in my life right now, and the businesses are reflecting that.
So, Jennifer, the listeners of this podcast, are in the interior design industry. And I'll tell you that while there are a fair number of interior designers that come at this business opportunity maybe as their first choice right out of design school or something, there are, I would say, an equal amount that come at starting a business in this industry as a secondary business, right? After maybe a corporate or something. So you worked corporate, granted, you started your own companies and you also worked for other people in corporate. You've done that. What was it that you think made you, was there a turning point or something that made you kind of say, I want to get off the corporate wheel and I want to move into more of a self-paced, self-expressed, do my own, in a smaller, look, you've run $1 million companies that you started and sold, but what was it that caused you, or was there a pivotal moment that changed, that made you think, I really want to do something, I'm going to say on a smaller scale, because even though you have a big business, it's still smaller scale than 54 million, right? And so what was it that made you do that? Because a lot of our listeners, some of them are in the process that they still work corporate, and interior design's maybe their side hustle.
Yeah.
And they're having this moment of, when do I stop corporate, or when do I stop my day job, kind of my consistent paycheck, and move over to maybe my passion or something that I want to do and love to do? Could you talk a little bit about how you made the decision?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would love to say that, it was this sunny day and this, the flowers were blooming and all of the situation was perfect. And I made this decision and lived happily ever after, but it did not work like that. And so when you're in that situation, and I was in the situation, so for corporate, and honestly, what led me to corporate was I'd had my software company for 13 years. I'd gone through a divorce, and I just got to the point where I was just like, I'd had enough. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just so tired and so worn down. And I ended up buying another business that it was a log home company in the construction industry. And it was the same year that the real estate industry, like the whole bottom fell completely out of it.
Perfect timing.
I know, right? And so I wanted to do something different. I bought this company and I ended up closing my doors within a year. And I was so upset because I went from, being debt free to having a ton of debt from losing this company. And I kind of just really lost I fell out of love with the idea of being an entrepreneur. And I just wanted that steady check. I wanted the benefits. I was just kind of tired of the whole thing. And that's actually what led me to corporate. And so when I got to corporate, I would say the first year was kind of like a dream. It was a dream because I was working for this huge $54 million manufacturing firm. I was the president of their software division. And for me, it was a fairly easy job because in my previous company, I was HR, I was marketing, I was IT, I was all of these departments. And I stepped into this company and there was departments to handle all of these things. And all I really had to do was just kind of be the director, the chef throwing in the ingredients. And so that part of the job was really, really easy. But then while I was there, I discovered some really serious flaws in their software that they'd bought the company and they bought them with these flaws, and they just kind of ignored what was going on because they just didn't know any better. And they didn't want to fix the problems. And that's where I had a problem. It was like, you've got to fix the problems. I was used to having my own company, and I had a problem, I fixed it. And they didn't want to fix the problems. And that's where I started really getting into a conflict of just morals and ethics and, keep selling, but don't tell the client that their system's probably going to blow up because they're not fixing the core issues. So that was probably one of the big things that really started wearing me down, is not having that control over my product and then being in a position to have to be selling a product that you didn't believe in 100%. That does not work.
Out of alignment with your personal values.
It did not work for me at all. And then on top of that, I found that in corporate, so at this time, I had gone through divorce. I had 3 children. I was really being a single mom at this point. And I saw that my children, I wasn't seeing my kids because I was gone 11 hours a day. And I'd come home and the nanny and the kids would tell me all about, what they'd been doing all day. And I kind of started to feel a little alienated and a little left out. And it was really the children that was just like, I didn't have kids, so somebody else could raise them. And I'm blessed with wonderful kids. I've seen some not so wonderful kids that would be like, yeah, no wonder you have a nanny. But my kids, I adore. And I wanted to be more available to them. So, what made this decision was really, I just got to a place, it was actually one of the lowest, darkest, saddest, most horrible places I've probably ever been in my life, where the job was just really hard. It got to be so hard to go to this place every day and have this conflict going on. And at home, I wasn't seeing my children. And so these things really just kind of led me to this dark place where at some point I just, I'll tell you, there was a breaking point where I'd walked in the front door of the office building, and the front desk receptionist, her name is Karen. She's a delightful lady. We're still friends today, but we weren't like friends. She was the office receptionist. I was the only senior female executive at this big company, very male dominated. I love men, but I'm just saying it's just male, a lot of men there. And so we weren't like friends, but one day I walked in the door, and she just said to me, she's like, Jennifer, every day you used to come in here smiling and happy, and now I'm just not sure. Is everything okay with you? And this was the first time that anybody at this company had even bothered to ask if I was okay. And so here I am, I break down, right? I break down crying at the front desk because I'm like, oh no, everything is terrible. And it's so funny, later I found out it was weeks for her to get up the guts to even ask me the question.
Wow.
She later told me this. She's like, Jennifer, it was weeks. I was so afraid to even ask you because, you're this whoop-de-doo executive, and I sit at the front desk. And it took her weeks to get that courage up. And I tell her, I was like, I'm so grateful to you for doing that, because that was the moment where I let my guard down, stop playing the BS role, and I was just vulnerable. And
Right.
as it came to find out, the woman at the front desk, she's like, Jennifer, well, I actually lead a women's empowerment group at night because this was her passion. Would you like to come to the group? And I said yes, and normally I would not have. And I came to her group, and because of that, that's where the process started of turning this around. That's how I started to get the strength, really, to make the decision to leave this high-paying corporate job, to go out on my own. I hired a life coach on top of that to kind of help me through the transition.
Right.
So it wasn't some like pretty thing. And so if you're in that position right now, it may not be pretty. If you're in a corporate job you're not loving, it's probably causing some disharmony at home or in the personal relationships. And it's just not a pretty, warm and fuzzy thing. So the decision to do that really just kind of came out of necessity, but I'm so grateful for it because it really pushed me to go and do something great.
So, it's funny, our stories are similar in that I worked corporate software for 10 years, very male dominated, financial software at that, which is so funny with, what I do and where I am today. But I have to tell you, towards the end of my 10 years there, I had a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and I was dropping them off at daycare and then bringing them home. Sometimes I dropped them off in their pajamas because I couldn't get them up and get them moving. Living in Atlanta, traffic was terrible. I would pick them up, bring them home, feed them, put them in their pajamas, and put them back. And they were the ones seeing the first steps at the day.
Yes.
They were the ones doing those things. And we didn't really have family in the Atlanta area, so our parents don't live here. We didn't have built-in babysitters.
Yeah.
And our quality of life was just not what we wanted it to be.
Yes.
And I'll have to say, what started off as a job that I loved and adored, and I went in every day with a happy face, became a job that I walked in with my head hung and my shoulders dragging, and my excitement for life was gone. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today as we start is because, like you, I was making really, really great money.
The money was great.
The money was great.
They paid weekly, so every week, man, here's money, money.
Mine was every other week.
Right on.
But it was the salary that I had worked hard and wanted. It was a lot to walk away from. And so when I walked away from that, and, I didn't even start my next company for I walked away in September of 98, and I didn't start my window treatment company until January of 2000. So I had like a year and a few months off where I was discovering myself. What do I want to do?
Yes.
Who am I outside of being mom? What else do I want to do? What's there for Michelle?
Right.
But it was that I'm letting go how much money that's guaranteed. And like you said, I don't have to go do the sales for it. I don't have to go do the marketing for it. All I have to do is do my job, get paid, come home.
Yep.
But at a cost.
Yep.
And so, that switch is not easy. And I know many of our listeners are thinking about that switch. And when we talk about profitability in general, or bottom line, or being paid, it all fits in to that package. So let me ask this. When you started your coaching business and you started your playing business, did you go in immediately with the idea of, I want to be profitable? And how did you define profitability at the beginning? Like, how did you, because nobody comes in and says, oh, in my very first year, I think I'm going to make $500,000. Or if they do, they're probably smoking crack. Right.
Exactly.
But if they're like in the real world. So how did you define profitability for the start of your business? And then we'll talk about how you defined it after you've been in business, because I think it can shift potentially.
Yeah, it absolutely can. And when I started the coaching practice, it's so funny because I didn't really start out coaching. When I left corporate, I started doing more consulting around marketing. I was writing, I was blogging, I was doing things like that, more contract work. I wasn't coaching at all. And it's so funny. One of the clients that hired me to rewrite some of her marketing and her copy on her website was an intuitive. And we were on the phone one day talking about her marketing, and she just kind of gave me like an impromptu reading. I didn't really ask for it, but she just kind of gave me this reading over the phone where she said, Jennifer, I see you as a business coach. You should immediately rebrand yourself and market yourself as a business coach. And I thought she had been smoking crack. I'm like, what? Like, I really and truly was like, a business coach, why would I even want to do that? Like, I can't possibly do that. And this was, a year and a half before I ever even started, maybe even 2 years or 2.5 years. It was a while before I even started the practice. Like, the idea wasn't even in my head. I look back now and go, gosh, if I'd listened to her, but I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. So I began consulting, and honestly, I mean, really and truly, I'd had businesses before, but when I was starting that new business, my main concern was putting food on the table for my kids.
Absolutely.
That was it. I wasn't thinking about profit. I wasn't thinking about getting rich. I was thinking about feeding my kids.
And don't you think that's where most of us start, though? I mean, absolutely. That first thought is, I need to just make the bills. Let me just make the bills. Let me do what I like and what I want to do, and just let me cover the bills.
That's right. And I think that's where you should be, because when you're starting a new business, it's hard to get it off the ground. And the first thing that you've got to do is be able to cover the bills. And even like people who are in this transition, if they come to me and looking back on where I was and how I did it, I definitely, it's like, don't go just quit the job. Like you got to know that you can pay your rent, you can pay your mortgage, you're going to have a roof over your head, and you're going to have food on the table. You've got to have that stability, because the stress and the pressure of starting a brand new business and getting it off the ground is a lot. And when you add to that, I can't feed my kids, it just starts to become bigger than it needs to be. Suck it up, deal with the job for a little while longer while you get the business going, in your spare time, evenings, weekends, whatever it is, get some income coming in so that you can transition in such a way that you're not, so unbelievably stressed because you can't feed the family.
So I think a good point here is, when we're starting a business, whether we're starting it brand new or we're starting it as a side hustle, is not to put too much stress on the business.
Right.
Because I also think, to your point and to mine, if I had come into, and I did the same thing. Mine was just to be able to bring in some extra money to take some of the pressure off my husband, because I had taken a 6-figure income out of the household. Mine was, I felt guilty at having taken 6 figures out. So I want to put a little bit back in. I didn't go into starting my business, like you said, with this great big idea. I wanted to be profitable, but I've got to be honest, I didn't even consider or differentiate salary from profitability when I started.
Right. Yeah, me either.
Company profitability and salary. Yeah. It was just going to have enough to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think if we come in thinking that it's got to be all this, right? Mm-hmm. We certainly don't want to create a business with the idea of, hey, let's go in and lose money.
Right, exactly.
But we can't put this great big idea out there that I'm going to make 30% net profit after salary in year one, because it almost sets us up to fail.
Right. Exactly.
Because
It does.
there's a lot in those first 3 to 5 years, as we know, not that we can't be profitable in that time frame, but there is a lot that goes into creating the business and being willing to pour back into it, that if you're so focused on huge profits, you're probably not serving your clients
Right.
the
Exactly.
best way,
Exactly.
right? I think
And
profits come from serving well.
oh yeah, most definitely. And a business is like a kid. It really and truly is. It's like raising a child, and you have
Yes,
this brand new baby, and you might want them to sleep through the night, but it ain't happening for a while.
that's right.
And you might be like, oh, it's going to be so great when they can walk and when they can talk, but it doesn't happen ever. I don't think it ever really happens on the time frame you want it to happen. And
Mhm.
like raising a child, like starting a business, it's going to start out as a baby and it's going to slowly mature. And you've got to get okay with every stage of that process and enjoy where you're at, because it will change, it will grow the more that you're putting into it, but you just can't expect the baby isn't going to walk at a month. It's going to take a year to get that baby walking. So
Right.
it's just kind of like you've got to go into it with it's like a reality check in some way. And the other thing that really helped me that I learned along the way was that your business, it's not emotional. A business is about numbers and facts and data. And a business doesn't care if you're having a bad day. Business doesn't care that you're an emotional wreck. It doesn't care. We are emotional, but the business is not. And so you've really kind of got to go into it understanding that, it's a business and it needs to run like a business. And it's really and truly not emotional. So as you start to look at growing it and getting it off the ground, it really comes down to numbers, data, just numbers of where you're
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
It's funny. I've been teaching for probably the last 10 years, and I teach a lot on you are not your business. And I cannot tell you how much pushback I've gotten over the years from that. Michelle, I am my business. I'm running it by myself. And I'm like, but you are not your business. If the business ceases to exist, you're still here.
That's right.
Right?
That's
If you
absolutely
sell
right.
the business, you're separate entities. You're
Yep.
not the business. And that's exactly, just another layer of what you're saying. Because
Mhm.
if we think we are our business, then our business does become emotional. It does become how we feel during that day, or who
Right.
made us angry or who made us happy. And the business is separate. And when we
Right.
can learn to separate those, to me, that's where E-Myth comes in, working
Yeah.
on the business and in it. It's
Yes.
hard to work on the business if you think you're it.
Oh,
It's
right.
easier to
Exactly.
work on it if it's a separate entity. And so then when things, let's say, don't work the way you expected, you're not taking it all so internally. Instead,
Yep.
you're able to look at it and go, well, that didn't serve me, or
That's
that
right.
marketing plan didn't work, not I'm a marketing failure.
Exactly.
We are too interconnected with the identity of ourselves and our business. I think that's going to hinder our profitability. Now,
It
like you,
will.
it doesn't mean that we're not caring about our
Sure.
clients. It doesn't mean we're not serving them. Absolutely. Have emotion, have vulnerability, have passion about all that. But the numbers are the numbers, and the
That's right.
analysis is the analysis, and it just is.
Right. But and when you treat it like numbers, it can actually kind of help with the emotions. It stops being, well, this didn't work, I'm a failure.
Right.
No, it just means that angle, that marketing, that product, that whatever, it didn't work. It's okay, course correct and find one that it does when you're looking at the numbers. So in
Right.
some ways it can kind of almost help with the emotions if you sort of take it out and don't take it all on yourself, because if you're going to be successful in business, you're going to have failures, and you've got to fall in love with that whole process and be willing to put yourself out there, have it not go well, course correct, put your butt back out there again, and rinse and repeat and keep going. And you've got to get okay with that process. And if the emotions are too heavy, it's going to be really, really hard almost to set yourself up for the success that will come if you keep going and keep working at it. So the numbers can actually be your friend in looking at this and kind of removing some of that emotion from it.
Absolutely. So in our particular industry of interior design, I think this is even more difficult to have the separation from my
Mm-hmm.
own personal experience of
Mm-hmm.
28 years, 29 years in the business, or 19 years. I just added 10 years to how long. Some days it feels that way, right?
Right, yeah.
But because I would say it is mostly female dominated.
Yep.
We are selling on the residential side primarily to the women of the house. Not that the
Yep.
men aren't involved, but it is. We are sitting in their home, which lends itself to an emotional conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of those sacred places. They're inviting us into their home, their bathrooms, their closets, the
Mm-hmm.
place where they do life. And so the emotion fits into our sales process. It fits into the process of what we select for them. It fits into the process of our choices on their behalf. So we are so wrapped up in emotion through our sales process all the way to the end in some ways
Mm-hmm.
that it can be difficult to separate it when it comes time to look at our business.
Right.
I've heard over the years designers that if a client says, I don't like that particular artwork or I don't like that chair, sometimes they take it personally when they first start. Oh my
Sure.
gosh, they don't like my designs. No, they just said they didn't like the chair. They didn't say anything about you. They said they didn't
Right.
like the chair, right? But our
Right.
mindset, that fear of failure, fear of what they're going to think,
Yep.
all of that fits in. So let's talk for a minute about mindset because,
Mm-hmm.
as a business coach as well, you and I both, we work a lot on helping our clients set mindset. What is the
Right.
mindset? What's really happening there? You and I even had a pre-conversation before we came on about fear of being seen,
Mm-hmm.
fear of being heard or misunderstood.
Yes.
So talk to us for a few minutes about in your practice, what do you see as, let's look at it first as maybe mindsets that
Mm-hmm.
hold us back from being profitable. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, profitable in finding the right clients, the
Mm-hmm.
whole idea of profit, not just money.
Yes.
And then also, what are some mindsets that lead us towards profitability? So let's start with mindsets that can prevent us from being as profitable as we would like to be.
Yeah,
What do you see?
absolutely. Absolutely. So, and this goes back to a little bit of what you were saying with the interior designers. It can be very difficult to separate because you're in somebody's home. It's their personal space. I can see how that could be difficult. Absolutely. But I got to tell you, it's difficult in other industries too, because as a business coach, and Michelle, you know this, but we're getting into their numbers. We're getting into their financials. We're getting into how much debt are you carrying?
Lifestyle choices.
Yes, exactly. I have a client I was working with before this. It's an orthodontist, right? And I'm all up in his everything on, how much his family is spending on trips, their mortgages. I mean, and this is personal stuff. Back when I did software, we did point of sale systems. And so we would go put the point of sale system in for the business, water parks, amusement parks, places like that. But the point of sale is right at the front. We're taking all the money. Like there is no more, sensitive spot in the business than that front gate, taking the money, that first interaction with the customer. And so I don't want you to use industry as an excuse to
Absolutely.
say, I can't separate this. Baloney. Yes, you can and you will. And if you want to be successful, you're going to have to, because when we talk about mindset and profitability, there's no emotions in profitability. You either made money at the end of the day or you didn't. And it doesn't matter if they liked the chair or they didn't like the chair. You either made money or you didn't. And so as far as mindset goes, I think it is super important to be able to, and even if you can't do it right in the beginning, that's okay. Nobody's perfect right out of the gate. But if you can logically start to understand, hey, these are the reasons why I need to separate, the emotional piece from the profitability. And then once you logically can understand it, then you can emotionally start to understand it and start to feel it and start to resonate with it of the reasons why. Because if you don't go into this with the right mindset around profitability, because the bottom line is, if you're going to start a business, you need to make money. That's it. If everybody who says, oh, the money isn't important, you're full of crap. If the money isn't important, go start a charity. All right. Go start a nonprofit. Exactly. Or use it as a hobby. Exactly. But if you want it to be a business, you've got to get in the mindset. If it's a business, it needs to make money. It has to make money. And that's why we're doing this now.
And it's okay to make money.
And it's okay to make money. It doesn't make you some, greedy capitalist pig. Okay. You're making the money for reasons that are important to you. For me, I make money so that I can support my family and the lifestyle that we want to live, so we can take trips and have amazing experiences.
So you can pay your mortgage and
so I can pay my mortgage, so I can eat, right? These are all really good reasons to make money. I can put good out into the world. If I'm an interior designer, I can put beautiful things out into the world. I can express my creativity. I can earn a living doing something that I'm passionate about. So these are all good reasons. And the making of the money, this is part of the mindset piece of getting okay with that, and knowing that we need to make money. You're not doing somebody a favor here. You're providing them a service, and you need to be paid for it.
We're solving a problem that they have.
That's right.
There's an exchange of money for problem solving.
Exactly.
That's just the way that it is. So what do you think is the mindset that holds us back? Do you think it's fear? Because I see a lot of fear of they're fearful that they won't be liked. There is a lot. I'm going to say it. There is a lot of fear in the entire industry, in the interiors industry, of comparison. It can be so difficult for a new designer. I've talked to some. They are scared spitless to put their first pictures out there.
Right.
People online hiding behind a computer can be so stinking cruel.
Yep.
So that fear actually invades their personal business out of fear of that being seen, putting the picture out there, letting it stand, defending their choices, because there's so much in interior design that comes from your aesthetics, what you like, what you think is beautiful, form, function, all that fits in. And what works for one person may not work for another. But that fear of how their peers are going to see them, the fear of, is their client going to like them? Am I going to be paid? Is this going to work? Just the fear of putting themselves out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that fear is absolutely huge in many, many different ways. The fear of course, putting yourself out there, the fear of going into something that maybe you don't have the skill set for. I mean, frankly, if you've never run a business on your own, if you've been in corporate, there's differences there, and you may not have the skill set that you need. And so the trick, though, is to look at that fear, break it down in a way that is non-judgmental. All right. We all feel fear. Everybody does. So first of all, you're not alone. It's not just you. I'm sorry. Everybody feels fear. But if you can start to look at that fear in a non-judgmental way and break it down and figure out, where is this really coming from? Is it coming from the fact that, I'm going to start this business and I don't know how to use QuickBooks, and so I just need to go take a course, and once I take the course, I'm going to learn how to do it, and the fear is gone. Yay. Versus, is it fear around, I'm not good enough? Whatever, however you grew up as a child, whatever that self-talk, whatever that belief system is, some of that junk can always be popping up where you're like, I'm really not good enough to do this. And those are, there's different ways, of course, of dealing with that, but you can deal with it. You absolutely can. And I want to say that when you do the work to, heal what you need to heal, look at this non-judgmentally, when you do the work to be able to work with the fear, you're going to start to really like it. I love fear. When fear pops up, I'm like, Yahoo, this means something good is happening. This means I'm pushing my comfort zone. This means I'm up leveling. This means that I'm putting myself out there. This means I'm opening a door I wouldn't have opened before. This means I'm growing and evolving. And so you can actually kind of shift this mindset to a way where you can actually use fear to propel you forward, and it ends up being a good thing, not something that's completely stifling or stopping you from really getting yourself out there. And, one more quick thing I want to say, anytime you're putting anything out into the world, there's always going to be somebody out there to tear you down. It doesn't matter how good of a job you do, whatever you put out there, some negative Nelly is going to tear it apart.
You can have the cure for cancer, and somebody
you can have the cure for cancer, and somebody is going to say, well, why would you want to have done that? Or you did it wrong, or whatever. But the mindset around this is, one, know that it's going to happen. And when it does, just learn how to roll with the punches, because it's something that just comes with being more successful. The more you're putting yourself out there, the more you're going to get these people. So I just kind of look at it like, as well, I guess I've arrived, because
somebody cares enough to say something.
Somebody cares enough to criticize me. Clearly, I'm getting some attention, so I must be doing something right. But if you can just make this your friend, it's really going to help you in the long run.
Right.
This won't
Let's
be such
talk for a minute
painful.
about where you were talking about that fear popping up prior to us going live. You and I had a discussion about that. And, you know, the same kind of thing for me. When I remember this kind of, at the end of 1999, I just had this kind of burning in my gut, and I knew that I wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted to do something. I didn't know what it was. And I was scared. I was scared. I was fearful of what I didn't know. Even though I'd run corporate, had a business degree, as you said, doing all of that and then creating your own micro business or small business is very different, because you now are running the entire thing, whereas you may have run a department or been involved in a piece or a part of a company. And then I can remember back in, I want to say 2008, December of 2000, mine always hit me in December now that I'm thinking about it. So that was December of 99. December of 2008, I felt the same turmoil again. I mean, Jennifer, I literally can almost feel it like in my gut, just kind of coming all the way up into my chest and my head, almost like a hot flash, except from the bottom up instead of the top down, right?
Yeah.
But I just, and then just this churning of my stomach, almost the sweaty palms. And that was when I kept thinking, I'm supposed to do something else. There's something supposed to happen, and I don't know what it is. So from 2008 to 2009, I had that feeling. And then it ended up in 2009 was a huge year for me. That was the year that I went on the board of directors for the Window Covering Association of America, where I've just served 9 years. It was the year that I became a partner in the management company for the Custom Home Furnishings Academy. So talk about up-leveling. I then bought into a whole nother company and joined a board of directors while running my own company. Oh, and by the way, put a magazine out every other month for 4 years, which you've never done before. So talk about, as my son would say, baptism by fire. That's what happened. But I am telling you, it was fantastic. So you fast forward to 2012, and we sold the management company, and I had that same feeling again. And I knew that meant something else was coming. But by that point, I had learned to not be afraid of it. And I had learned that physiologically, that, like you and I mentioned earlier, the feelings of fear and excitement are the same.
Right.
And so where I had in the past maybe recognized that feeling as fear, I decided I'm going to, as you say, and we talk about, lean into this process of not having to be in control of it, of not having to have every answer. And I'm a business coach, a type A personality, maximizer, achiever, so I want answers. But when I leaned into that whole feeling of I don't have to have the answers, this isn't fear unless I choose for it to be.
Right.
And I'm choosing for this feeling to be excitement. And then I started my coaching practice in 13. And the same thing happened when I started the podcast. So the same thing happened again, right? This feeling. And I started going, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. I'm scared. And then I'm like, no, those butterflies are excitement. I'm excited for what this is going to be. And so I think that is really important for all of us to recognize. I did a keynote a little over a year ago in front of 200, 250 people. And I remember feeling all this excess energy. And at first I thought it's fear. We ended up shutting the doors, turning on some like really hyped up music, and just dancing. And it is amazing because it got the energy out. It turned excitement from fear. And then you're great when you walk up and do this next great big thing. But now that feeling, I go, oh, I'm like you. I'm up leveling. Something's getting ready to happen with this. I'm going to use it to my advantage instead of letting it hold me back.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the process that you just go through. And so if you're a new business owner or you're starting something on the side, you're going to be feeling a lot of these things. And the one thing I want to say is, it's okay. It's okay. It's normal. It's natural. You're going to be feeling these things. And you can't control the way that you're going to feel. You just can't. You're going to feel how you're going to feel. But what you can control especially for us type A'ers, you can control your reaction to it. You can control what you're going to do with it. That's the piece that you absolutely have control over. And so if you can learn earlier on to really work with it, it's actually going to come back and be, I mean, we're women. We have the sense of intuition. It's not some made up thing. It's real. And instead of being judged for that, you know, often, at least through my life, you know, I've heard many times, you know, women were so emotional, like it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. We're far more intuitive and we can kind of sense things are coming. And if you can start to look at that as your friend, not a foe, and use it to your advantage, it can be a very, very powerful tool in your toolbox. I love my emotions.
Doesn't it?
It is. I love my emotions. I love that connection. Yes, exactly. I love that connection because it always serves me. When I don't listen to it, that's when I have a problem. It's when I'm not listening to it. And one of the things that I had to learn, I've really learned over the last few years that I just didn't know how to do earlier on that I wish I had developed was the ability to just step away and give it some space to breathe. Now I do
not react immediately.
Not react. You know, I don't have the answers and it's okay. Let me go over here. And for me, I'm a horse girl. And so I ride my horse and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to step away from all this. I'm going to go out to the barn. I'm going to ride my horse and I'm going to come back. And usually 9.5 times out of 10, the answer has come and the answer is better than anything I would have come up with on my own, sitting there, putting all this pressure on myself, being stressed out. And this was something I never learned earlier on, was the ability to just let it breathe for a little bit, step back. The answers are coming, and trust in my own ability to find those answers if I will just give them some time and some space to come to the surface.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I would agree. I know one of the things when I worked in software, like the very first job I had in software when I started was on the helpline for an accounts payable system. And we're talking on IBM mainframe. So we were enterprise model
I remember
software.
those.
Right? You remember those?
Yes.
So that meant the companies we worked with were companies like Boeing. I mean, we're talking
big,
huge corporations. So when they call in with the production down or they call in with any kind of question, it is imperative that you answer immediately. So there was this feeling that there was no breathing room. And so I got into a habit by necessity of you better dig for the answer, find the answer, give the best response the first time, move, go, 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 go.
Right.
And, you know, that absolutely fed into my achieving, which is one of my strengths finders as achiever. So it just fed, get it done, mark it off. Okay, so when you push forward and you're running your own company, so there is emotion involved in you being a person. Then you have the business, you're trying to do client relations. The client is not always right. The customer is not always right, but they are powerful.
Yes.
And so being able to control your response to them. And I had to catch myself because every single time an email came in, I felt like I immediately needed to solve their problem.
Right.
I needed to answer back right then. And if it was something that made me angry or frustrated, you know, sometimes they might get the brunt of that if I wasn't careful. And so now I've learned that same beautiful lesson. Some things need to be addressed immediately. And I ask myself, I think awareness is key. Awareness of fear, awareness of emotion, and awareness of the response. And so that awareness makes me stop and go, does this need to be answered right now? Right. And am I in a good place to answer it the way that I want it to last for all time? Because if it's in writing, it is answered, right?
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
There. And so sometimes I have the ability to answer immediately. It's a quick, easy. But other times I have to think through it. And then I write it out. But I make sure that the 2 is my email address so that I don't accidentally hit send to the wrong person. So I'll put to Michelle from Michelle, and then I write it out, and then I walk away.
Yes.
And then I come back.
Let it breathe.
And look at it. Or I get, you know, my business coach, you, to say, look at this. Help strip the emotion out. I do that for all of my clients, they will send me an email, especially when they're in a difficult situation with a client or a vendor, and they're trying to say, and here's what happened, and here's what happened, and here's what happened, and they send me their emails. Well, I'm not tied to it emotionally. I go through and can strip out the emotion that they might not be able to do. So having kind of a resource that you can bounce off of and say help has really been part of a good growth trajectory for me.
And I think you're really tapping into something super important here. It's about surrounding yourself with the right resources and getting the help that you need, because there's other people who have gone through this and you don't have to suffer alone. I thought, I've got to do this all myself. I put all this pressure. I've got to figure it all out. No, you don't have to suffer alone. You can get help. Like what you just said, you reach out to me, your business coach, and I reach out to my business coach. And as I said, when I was going through that horrible transition in corporate, what did I do? I hired a life coach. I hired somebody to come in and help me. And I hired her with literally, I had $900 in my savings account and her fee was $900. And I took that money out of my savings and it was so hard to do, but I knew I needed to get some help because I was emotionally compromised at the time with everything going on. And I needed somebody who could come in and be objective with a different perspective to help move me forward. So I think you hit on something so important, especially around mindset, is you don't think that you're going to just solve all this stuff all by yourself. Get the help that you need. It will really shorten the curve. And when you can learn from somebody else's experience who's already been down that road, it's just going to shorten the path for you and make you be able to succeed that much faster instead of all the trial and error and doing it on your own.
It's funny, even in the interior design world, I hear this all the time. It's so easy for me to design for everybody else, but to design my own home is difficult, right? Because we have so many ideas and so many choices, and I could go in this direction or that direction.
Right.
But we walk into someone else's home and we just kind of know what we should do.
Yes.
And I think when we're looking at our business and our emotions and how it's the same thing. I can almost look into your business and speak truth differently than I can see my own.
Yes.
Which is why it's so nice. And that's the beautiful thing that corporate has set up for it, is that there are multiple people with multiple personalities who kind of get in and battle it out. We just become schizophrenic when we sit and battle it out in our own head, or we get to that place that we can't move because we're fighting ourselves all the time. So then we get stuck.
Right. Exactly.
So I want to transition for a minute because I want to make sure we have time to talk about your planner, the best planner ever. And I say that because part of this whole planning to work on our business, working on our mindset, those happen with the plan. We have to make a choice to do those things. And I think those are what lead us to profitability. The whole premise behind this whole podcast is that everything we do leads us towards profitability or away from it.
Right.
And our mindsets can lead us towards or away. How we spend our time leads us towards or away. If we're wasting our time and we're not planning and we got a junky mindset, the numbers at the end of the year are just an indicator of every choice we've made that year. That's it.
Right. That's it.
That's it. That's why it's like, it's very black and white. There's a number there. It's positive or it's minus.
That's right. That's it.
Or negative. That's it. And so, but it's not a one-time event. It is an accumulation of all types of choices, all types of feelings, whether we're choosing to deal with the emotion or not with the emotion. And all of that comes with a plan. And so I just want to I know some of you years ago purchased a planner from me, and I want to tell you, I worked with Jennifer to come up with my planner. She has a beautiful one, and we were able to collaborate and find one that suited my clients. And so, I've chosen to step out of that. Jennifer has continued it and beautifully done it from the beginning. And I want to talk to you about how you help people plan with your planner. Now, some people I know are online planners. That's fine. But the methodologies that you share are brilliant. And so can you talk a little bit about how you teach people to plan? And then we'll talk about how your planner fits into that. So why is planning important and why should we even do it?
Oh my gosh. So, this is a topic that I could go on and talk about all
We
day
may just have to
long.
have you
I
back
know,
when we
right?
do goal setting. We'll come back and do it then.
Right, right. This is one
But
of my favorite things because you really hit the nail on the head when you said that your numbers at the end of the year are basically just a scorecard on every decision that you made every single day, every minute of the day throughout the course of the year. And so with the planner, the one thing, I would say my number one thing with the planner, and I actually created it for myself first. Then I started using it as a tool with my clients. And then from there, it actually grew into and became a business. And it was so funny because I kept saying to myself, this is just the best planner ever, because I combined all these different elements into it that you generally don't find in traditional planners. And I kept saying to my husband, this is the best planner ever. He's like, you should just call it that. I'm like, I should, talk about fear and like, who's going to put out a planner, call it the best planner ever? Me. And it's like, okay, some people are going to probably have a problem with this, but oh, well, I've got to do what I need. I feel
so they just won't be their planner.
It just won't be their planner. And that's okay. It is for who it is. And those are the women and even men. I'm finding a lot of men are starting to use the planner. Those are the people I'm here to serve. And if it doesn't work for you, it's so okay. Thank goodness there's lots of choices out there. You can go find whatever you need. But really behind the planner, I found that I needed a balance of, my time, my physical time, and my energetic state. I needed to balance the energetic with the actual physical time. And I needed to step out of busy. How much stuff can I get done in a day? And I needed to be more strategic. And the reason why I needed to be more strategic was so that I could get more done in the day, because I have a family. I have 3 amazing children. I work from home, but I'm working, so I still want to be done so I can go play with them and see them. And I have a horse that I want to ride. And my husband has a motorcycle that we want to go take trips on and things along this line. And I don't want to be working 12, 15, 18 hours a day. I just don't. And so in order to get more out of the day, it really requires us to kind of step out of this mindset of how much can I get done today and start to shift into what are the most important things that I need to do today that are going to move the needle on my goals, on my business, on where I want to be. What are those things? That's what I need to be working on today. And so that was really the mentality and the idea that went into the planner. Was it really just became a tool to help me really focus on these are the hours that I'm going to be working. How can I make those hours go as far as they can possibly go?
The thing I love about the planner, and I have used the concepts that you teach for years, and I teach the same type of concepts in my business. But I think often we set, I'm going to say, a goal that's probably really a dream for the year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We don't have action items attached to it. We don't have tasks. We don't have it broken down. And what I love is being able, when I do my goal setting and I plan for the year, I then plan for the quarter. And then I just plan for the first quarter. And then I take the first quarter and plan for the month. And then I take the month and I plan, for the week. And then I take the week and I plan for the day, and then the day for the hour. And so I know that every hour, every day, every week, every month, every quarter is leading me to where I want to be at the end of the year.
That's right.
So I'm not getting there. Like I say, profit's not an accident. It's a choice. And making myself accountable for how I spend my time. It's a currency. Look, you're a profit first coach, just like I am. And in Profit First and Dave Ramsey and any of the money management systems, they teach that every dollar has a purpose. It has a job.
That's right.
And it can only do one job. I can't spend the same dollar 2 ways. Well, we can't spend the same hour more than once.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to look at our time.
That's right.
And work it as efficiently as we do the money, which is why you and I both, with our clients, look at how are you spending your money and how are you spending your time, because we can't separate them.
No, we can't. And time is money. So
Absolutely.
If you want to make more money, where you're putting your time is key. That's really where it starts, is where you're putting that time. And if you are being sloppy with your time, you're not going to make the kind of money that you want to make. And that's just really and truly where it all starts. That's the beginning of it. And
in this industry, time matters, because some designers and drapery specialists are charging by the hour. So if we're not keeping up, and I'll tell you, I bet I talked to 2 designers this week that we found $30,000 in profit if they would just charge for an extra 3 to 4 hours a week that they're doing, and we're
Right.
doing sloppy accounting and not
Right.
trying
Exactly.
it in.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a whole salary. That was $30,000 of profit with nothing attached to it, no product coming out of it.
Yes.
That they would have made if they could keep up with their time.
Yep.
And so, I've seen businesses, like as you have, turn around like on a dime the minute we start looking at how
That's
they
right.
spend their time and their mindset. Talk about the energy piece a little bit, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you still have it, but one of my favorite parts in the planner was where it says, give yourself permission that if your goals have changed, to mark it off your list.
Yes.
And I am a list maker extraordinaire.
Yep.
My family laughs at the fact that I used to have a list on the refrigerator that said, like, on Mondays we do the white clothes, and
Yes. Yes.
every 6 months we check the fire detectors, and the dog pulled them off the front and ate the list. And my husband thought it was the funniest thing, and he's like, "You're going to redo those?" I'm like, "No, I'm not redoing them." But I'm the list maker extraordinaire.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
sometimes when I write that list, it's to keep me busy. And
Yes.
I have learned I need to not be busy. I've got to create
Right.
some times of silence and times of quiet. And using that planner and it just saying to me, if this does not put you in alignment with where you want to go or where you are, mark it off the list. It is something that we know, but it's like we don't give ourselves permission.
Right.
Seeing it in writing, it was almost like it was empowering. It was like, you are off my list, because
That's right.
nobody cares. My husband doesn't care. My kids could give a rip. Why am I creating busy work for myself to keep
That's right.
strapped and crazy and
Right.
spend my energy in a very weird way? Why am I doing that?
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so, it's funny, and I'm going to speak general terms. So generally, not each individual, but generally what I will see is with women, we tend to get busy. Busy. All right, we're busy. And we could be busy for a number of reasons. It could be because we have a lot going on. We of course do, and that just is what it is. But sometimes we're more busy than we need to be because it makes us feel important. Sometimes it's just ego that's keeping us so busy, and we've got to check that ego. Sometimes we're too busy because we're distracting ourselves from something going on that we don't want to deal with. And so if we're too busy to deal with it, we don't have to deal with it. There's a lot of reasons why we'll keep ourselves busy. And generally with women, I tend to see that we get busy, but we don't really know what the outcome is that we're after. All we know is we're going to be busy. Exhaustion, but we haven't taken time to get clarity on the outcome. Where do we really want to end up? On the flip side, with men, I will see men know where they want to be. I want to be here, but they have no idea what the heck they're supposed to do to get there. So they're good on the outcome, but they're not so good on what I need to do to fill in that gap. Women are busy, but not knowing where they're supposed to end up. So if we can stop, and that's part of why with the planner, this energetic piece that I've kind of built into it with the beginning of the planner is visions. So it kind of requires you to take a moment and stop and think about, well, where do I want to be at the end of this year? And where do I want to be? I have a 6 month and a 12 month. So in 6 months, where do I want to be in 6 months? Where do I want to be in 12 months? And to start to get aligned with that bigger picture of your life, because everything that you do, wherever that time goes, it's going to either take you closer to it or further away from it. Mm-hmm. So starting the process with getting an alignment of really what your life is about, what's important to you, where you really want to be is kind of that first process. From there, breaking it down to goals, which are just, the benchmarks that you need to achieve to get there. And goals get broken down further into the individual day. And even on an individual day, for me, this was a huge thing in the planner that I put self-care into the planner, because
that could be its own podcast there too, right?
That could be
it's on the list.
Yes. Exactly. But you know what? I needed that reminder. I've got to take care of me. If I don't take care of me, I'm no good for the kids. I'm no good for the husband. I'm no good for my clients. And I show up and I'm not in as good of a place. And I want to do well and I want to serve them. And if I want to serve them, I've got to take care of me. So just the task of putting self-care on my daily plan, so it's right in front of me every day. What am I going to do to take care of me? There's also an intention in the planner where you set your daily intention, and I've changed it from year to year. I think for 2019, the question is, what am I going to do today to feel good? And it's just like, so it's one of those things we don't always think about. We're just like, I've got all these things I've got to get done today. I'm not even thinking about, well, what do I need to do to feel good today? But that's what we're in this for. That's why you have a business, is so you can be successful and turn a profit and live the lifestyle you want to
and feel good.
And feel good, right? We want to feel good. So the planner energetically helps to kind of bring you back, get you connected to yourself before you start getting busy. And then it really helps because you've clarified your vision of where you're going. I mean, it's really easy to look at something written on a to-do list and say, is this getting me closer or not? And
because you have the vision to find it.
Because you have the vision, you took the time to really get clarity on where you wanted to go. And that's really key to it. Because if you haven't defined your vision, you won't really know if something on your list is getting you closer or further away. You've got to do that work initially to get clear on where you really want to end up.
So I'm going to have you back before we start our planning for the next year, right?
Yeah,
You'll come back on the podcast? Okay.
Absolutely.
And we can talk even more detail about that. But I just want to mention one last piece that I really liked and was important for me, because you know how you mentioned a minute ago that when you were working with your client, you're all up in their personal business too. And I'm a life coach and a business coach. And it's because the minute somebody comes to me with their business, it pours over into their home.
Oh, yes.
It always does. It pours over into their life. So if they're having trouble standing up in one part of their life, they're probably having trouble standing up in another part of their life. But what I loved about using the planner was that it asks you mentally, kind of spiritually, physically, community, how you want not just to be in business, because we are not one-dimensional creatures. There are multi-dimensions to our lives and to how we feel. And so being able to cast that vision for all aspects of my life was important to me, because every day had to be a balancing act between, like you said, me being a mom, being a wife, being a business owner, being a friend. How many people do I talk to that they go, I lost friends when I started my business because I didn't have time to have lunch with them like I used to, or I couldn't go out and do things. So really being able to be intentional about all of my relationships for the whole Michelle, I think was one of the pieces of the planner that I love the most. And then that reminder every day that you see the world through the lens of the glasses you choose to put on. So if today I choose to see the day as a beautiful day and it's rainy and dreary, I'm going to see it as beautiful. So that daily intention, I think about it before my feet hit the floor in the morning. Today I will, or today I will feel, or today I will serve, today I will give. And it changes my mindset for the whole day. I mean, I think everybody should buy your planner and then buy Miracle Morning, because Miracle Morning says, here's how, I want to start my day. If anybody wants to buy a book, go over to my website. There's resources and it shows all the books that I suggest. But I think it's that, here's my plan for how I'm going to start my day. Here's my planner where I'm going to write what I'm going to do. Because you have journaling opportunities in there as well. There's just so much poured into that I think it is a huge resource for me, for you, for our listeners. And that was the whole reason that I worked with you when I was offering the one that I did, because it's the way we think, it's the way we use it, and then it's profitable for us because the outcome's what we want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up, a couple things for you. How do you see profitability now compared to when you first started? So we talked about what it looked like. I just want to feed my kids.
Yeah.
Now, how do you view profitability, years into owning your own company?
You know what? Now I view it as just as essential as feeding my kids. I mean, really, it's not something that I, do on a whim or occasionally. It's really and truly part of my day-to-day now. And even when you look at, my goals for the year and the quarter, and you break those things down, it all comes back to profitability, because I'm very, very focused. I'm very specific, very strategic with my time, far more than I ever used to be. And because I'm more strategic, I'm strategic because in the business, I'm looking at what's that end number that I'm really after. And so I would say it is absolutely as essential as feeding my kids was when I started my business. Continuing to run and grow my business, it's just as essential.
I'll say this. When I first started, like you, it was to take care of bills, to
Right.
put some money back in the house. Well, once you do that, right, you've
Yeah.
met that part of the goal. So now you're looking at profit separate from salary,
Yeah.
which, a whole podcast there, right?
Yep.
But profit over salary. You know what's so interesting now? I've found myself I want to give to other people. I want to pour out. Dave Ramsey says one of the things he says is when you make more money, it just makes you more of who you already were.
That's right.
So you can't be miserly and rude and hateful and make more money and all of a sudden you're, philanthropic.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're philanthropic with little, when you make more, you're philanthropic with more. So making more money, being more profitable actually brings out more of who you are.
It does. It does.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. But it has made me want to serve others more deeply because I have the money to do it.
Yes.
Whereas when I'm scraping to feed my family, my heart might want to do it, but the resources don't align. And being, I would say, consciously profitable, right? Conscious consumerism gives me the ability to pour into the lives of others and to things that I believe in to make a bigger difference in the world.
Right.
And so, that's a beautiful thing about having some money at the end.
Oh, and if you don't do it for any other reason, it's just so much more fun. It just is.
It just feel better, doesn't it?
It's so much more fun. And it just feels so much better to have something left over at the end of the day. You're like, hey, all my hard work is worth it. I mean, I think that's where a lot of the burnout comes from, is you're working so hard and you're not seeing the results and you don't have anything left. That's what burnout comes from. I can work all day long in my business and love every minute of it and never once feel burned out, but it's because I'm seeing results. I'm seeing money in the bank and it feels really, really good. I know I can take that next trip with my family. So if you don't do it for any other reason, just do it because it's just so much more fun.
And I sleep better at night.
You sleep better, you laugh more. You just, that's really what does profitability mean to me? It means I can live a stress-free existence. I can feel good about myself. I can feel self-confident. I can laugh more. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect. Nothing is perfect. But it changes the mindset. It changes the energy. It changes everything in it when you've got something left at the end of the day.
Amen. So, Jennifer, you have added so much value in our time together today. So we've talked about mindset. We've talked about fear, being aware of how we feel, not running from the emotion, but leaning in and letting it intuitively guide us instead of pushing it back. Noticing that as our bodies feel, we talked about, we can count it as fear. Or we can count it as excitement. We've talked about making every choice count to get us to profitability. We've talked about planning. We've talked about the fact that we're holistic in nature. Oh my goodness, right? So I want to ask you, where can people find you?
Yep, absolutely. So you can visit my website, which is Best Planner Ever, all one word, spelled the way it sounds, bestplannerever.com. And that's where you can see the planner. There's a contact form there. You can reach out to me. It has, of course, links to, my Facebook and all of those things on the website, thebestplannerever.com.
And you're going to have a special for our listeners, right?
I am absolutely going to set up a special page so that if you go to bestplannerever.com/profit is a choice, all one word, no spaces, so /profit is a choice, I'm going to set up a special page for all the listeners there. And on that page, I'm going to share with you, there's a free PDF download, which is 5 Secrets of Planning Pros. So if you know that you need to get your time management kind of under control, this is going to be a great step to get you there. So it's 5 Secrets of Planning Pros. I'm also going to put on the page, I have a master class. It's about 40 minutes that I recorded, and it's the 7 keys to skyrocket your productivity and get you back 10 hours a week. And when you think about that, 10 hours a week is a lot. So when I say that I'm going to deliver in this class, I absolutely do. And I'm going to put the link to that class on the page for all the listeners. And finally, if any of you take a look at that planner and you're like, man, this could really help me, I'll put a discount on there as well so that anybody who hears the podcast and wants a planner, you can save 20% and just use the code word profit, right? That's a perfect code. Use the code word profit and you can save 20% on a planner.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. It's been my pleasure. I feel like we could sit and talk for about 10 more
We
hours.
We could.
Yeah.
We could have a 24-hour podcast where we
That's
just
right.
talk all day long.
Oh my gosh, we should do that. That would be crazy. A podcast filibuster.
There you go.
We'll start a new trend. But I definitely want to get you on the schedule and bring you back towards the end of the year so that we can talk about planning and
Absolutely.
focus on some good habits for that to get us ready for our next year. But thank you again so much. I'm going to ask all of you, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please go out to iTunes and leave a review. If you're ready to take control of the choices in your business and life that will help create a better bottom line, then I invite you to schedule a call with me. You can go to my website, scarletthreadconsulting.com, and send me an email through the contact page. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I'd love for you to leave a review in iTunes and share it with a friend. And until next time, remember, profit does not happen by accident.